So hello, folks. I am Praxilla Taurina, who has completely and totally forgotten to change her name all day. But I am a Baroness in Artemisia, where I live in the most southern part of it and get to do a lot of driving. I have a 16th century Venetian courtesan persona. My persona, Praxilla Taurina, is actually ethnically Greek, but I like playing games and reading poetry and eating yummy food and doing fun things. So we've been talking about some different things like that today, and we're going to be talking about basic bocce. Um, Unfortunately, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. This is not going to be as long as I had planned because we are not going to be playing anything. It is 100 degrees here, and my phone did not like going outside and attempting to broadcast anything, and my computer was said, heck no, on the Wi-Fi. So we will be lawn bowling from my kitchen table. I apologize for that. But I also, as you can see by the subtitle of my slide, I am not a serious player. I am more concerned. My motivation is have some fun. Let's have a reason to be standing about. And bocce happens to be one of the best reasons to stand about that I think you can come up with. So I've been in the SCA since 1991. I've been playing seriously and significantly for about the last 12 years. One of the first things I saw when I started playing, like I said, about 12 years ago, were some absolutely fantastically amazing Italian courtesan personas in my kingdom who hosted an annual lawn bowling in your underwear event at one of our larger wars, where the idea was to have a beautiful morning with mimosas and snacks and brunch, and everyone show up in your whites and we will do some lawn bowling. And it hasn't been done in a few years, but it is still at the top of my list of absolutely wonderful images, absolute fun, and a thing that I want to emulate. So I'm trying to convince more people to play bocce with me, and if we ever get together again, we will be having brunch and we will be having drinks and we will be lawn bowling. So that is my motivation for why I play bocce. The motivation is not because I'm incredibly excited by competition and sweating and sports. No, so I'm just letting you know that right up front. We're not playing here. Okay. So here's the limitations and the motivations I see with playing bocce in an SCA circumstance. First of all, in most cases, you are playing with an ad hoc playing space. Bocce can be played in a variety of spaces. You normally have there are courts that you can go. There's a couple of places you can get online. You can go find out where your local bocce court is, and they have spaces all set up for you to go play. When you go to an SCA event, in most cases, you don't have that. However, the game is set up so that the only thing you need to play, let's turn this off for just a second. The only thing you actually need to be able to play bocce are a pallino, which is a tiny little ball that becomes your goal, and a larger ball, which, well, you have 8 of these. My set has 2 colors. You can buy them in like 4 colors. 2 colors is more usual. But so you need your goal and your balls, and that's all you actually need to play is those things. You know, having a fabulous court would be awesome, but most of your standard SCA event sites do not come with bocce courts. So conveniently, you can play on any uh, any relatively flat space. Bocce courts are normally done in like a earthen court. You can play on the grass. You're not going to get as much roll to your ball, but playing on the grass is nice. Playing in the dirt is totally normal, and you can play the pretty much anywhere. Now, that does mean it's not going to be as competitive, and quite a few of the parts of that you can do in a tournament bocce game aren't going to happen at your standard SCA game. So you're not playing in the courts, you're not concerned about using the rails of the court or banking shots off it or doing that sort of thing. But you can totally play on any relatively flat piece of grass or ground. Things I love about bocce is you are not trying to see how fast and hard you can whip this sucker. That is not your point. This is not bowling to go knock everything down. This is a nice underhanded throw sort of a thing, rolling it across the ground. You want it to travel a little bit, and because what you want to do, well, we'll show that. But this is it is an easygoing. It works great for those of us that have no sports ability whatsoever. I'm not going to be out there, shooting hoops and tackling fellows. Well, at least not in this circumstances. By playing this particular version, you can keep the rules and strategies simple. Bocce is interesting in that you can choose how many points you're going to go to. So if you want to have a short game, you could say, let's go to 7 points. Let's go till somebody's up by 2 points. You can adjust how long your game is. You can also use an open tournament, which is an open style game rather than a game, which I find useful, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So bocce is, it's an old game, and it's a popular game. It's played in a lot of different places. There are some variations. For instance, you have Penteke, which is played in France. You have lawn bowls in England, and there's some differences. There's differences on whether the ball is completely flat or if it has a tendency to go in a particular direction. There's a difference in Penteke, you throw the ball differently. But even marbles is a similar game where what you're doing is taking a ball and trying to get it as close as you can to another ball. Historically, bocce was thought to be a stress reliever, which is what I like to use it as. Hippocrates went as far as to say it was good for your health because the game is as old as ancient Rome. Around the 13th, it became banned because it took your mind off military matters. You were doing things like practicing your archery. Instead, you were playing this game. So it became a threat to national security. That's about as meaningful as bocce ever really was. But that happened. Venice banned it in 1576 for the exact same reason. People were not paying enough attention to military matters. But it is an accessible and easy game. So let's see here next. Okay, the game itself. It involves 2 players, so you can play with as few as 2 players, or you can play with as many as 8.
Is there a Russian variant that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of a Russian variant. There probably is, because all it is, the name bocce simply means balls. It's simply a ball game, and you're just rolling balls. So there's probably something, but I'm not familiar with what it is. The most common ones are the French and Spanish versions, and then the bocce became very popular, brought over by Italian immigrants. But again, it's a very old game because it's a very simple game, and it requires very little equipment. So what do you need to play? Like I said, you need a small ball called a pallino. It can also be called a jack, but this becomes your goal. And then you need 8 large balls. You can go on Amazon right now and buy yourself a bocce set. It depends on what kind you want and what size you want. But they're not an expensive piece of equipment. So, and it's not something that you have to special order, or you have to search out. It is still a popular game, and it is still very accessible. Your court is up to 90 feet long and about 8.2 to 13 feet wide, but you can also see courts that are more familiar that are more like 12 inches wide or 3 feet wide or 60 feet long. So again, it's more of a variant depending on what's happening and what style of play you're doing. So if you're using at events, the best thing for you to do is decide what your area is. You know, this is in bounds, that's out of bounds. We're going to stay in this vicinity. There are things like foul lines and not throwing your Polino into the back wall and such. But in most cases, as I'm playing, again, because I am non-competitive and I am playing at an SCA event, often with people who, you know, they're just there because somebody dragged them over and they thought it might be fun to give it a shot, or we're in our underwear and ready for brunch, those sorts of ideas. We're not playing with that sort of a thing, but everyone just says, okay, we're going to play in this vicinity. You throw your Polino about halfway into your playing space because you want to have room around it. But agree how far you are going to be playing. Yeah, the comedy Russian bocce in the chat does sound like an absolute blast. Okay, so you're going to take your Polino and you're going to throw it about halfway down. If you're playing in a court, there is a way to not throw the Polino correctly by either hitting it too far into the foul area, hitting the back line, all kinds of things like that. It doesn't really happen when you're playing in just an open space because there's not a lot of line to worry about. So you throw your Polino, throw your small ball, then you throw your big ball. And you were trying to throw your ball as close to this as possible. So that's the goal. That's it. You want to try to get your ball as close to this as possible. And then the other team will throw their first ball, and whomever is closest, you can see that I threw this together when I knew I wasn't going to be able to be outside, and it happened in about 10 minutes, so I really apologize for my lack of spelling. But whoever's closest throws next. And so what can happen is somebody can end up throwing like all of their balls in order to, and then the second team would throw theirs. The point to score is the point of scoring is to be as close to the ball to the Polino as possible. Bocce is interesting in that it does not matter if you knock the Polino out of the spot it is in. That is not a foul. In fact, it's a strategy. Knocking into somebody else's ball, also not a foul. It could be a strategy. You are just trying to get as close to that ball as possible. When you are dealing on a more even court with sides, there are lots of ways to utilize the strategies. When your concern is conversation and hanging out, you're not probably as concerned about that, but it's still out there. So I'm going to throw my red ball. Let's see here. And it's going to get relatively close. Again, if I was playing, I would be doing an underhand throw, and it would be a pretty easy throw. You are not attempting to shatter the ball. You are not attempting to bounce it or break it or anything else. You're just doing a nice, gentle underhand throw, trying to get as close to this as you can. So I'm throwing first, and I'm going red. And nothing's going to stay put because this is my kitchen table. But then the next team throws. If you're doing 2 people, each person is going to throw 4 balls. If you're doing 4 people, each person is going to throw 2 balls. If you're playing with 8 people, each person will throw 1 ball. So it's not that everybody gets to throw all of the balls. It's that depending on how many people are on your team is how many people are handling these. So green rolls. It ends up over here. Let's see. They stop. All right, in this case, it looks like green's closer. So green gets to roll again. And green would throw their ball, trying to get as close as they can to the Paulino. The closest, they can keep going. And they will continue throwing their balls. Once if they happen to get to throw all 4, then the red would throw their other 3. You score by being closer than the other team. So for instance, if I got, let's see, those 2 are here, these are here. I have a green ball. We're going to put the green ball clear over here. We're going to pretend these other red ones are super close, and there's another green one clear over there. I only get to score the ones that are closer than the other teams, and only one team scores per round. So I would get 2 because my 2 balls are closer than the other team. And conveniently for remembering that, bocce instructions are everywhere. I believe I even have, I think I've even got a cool little handout that goes to my set. Yep. And as you can see, it is only on the front. It is an incredibly easy game. So the basic rules of bocce, according to Trademark Games, it is only 5 lines long. And that's just determining who gets to play first. That person throws the Paulino, and then the first team tosses a bocce as close to the Paulino as possible. And then they let the second team go, trying to get it closer. If it doesn't toss, if the second team doesn't toss its bocce well closer to the Paulino than the first team, then the second team continues tossing until it is closer. Or, it can keep going. So that's about it. This is, again, much more fun if my Wi-Fi is working and we're out rolling balls on the lawn, because that is my intent for why I play, as previously stated, because I think it's all about a fun game. You can teach somebody, even if they're 3/4 drunk and suffering from a hangover, to play pretty quickly and participate and have a chat and look picturesque. And since so much of courtesan culture is about the reclining and lounging and being lovely, this one's a great game, a highly recommended game for that. Certainly you can wear real clothes, but going out there in your smock, also a fun time. So are there any questions? This one's real short and silly.
Forgive me if I came in a little bit late. I may have missed some of this. What is the story behind playing bocce in your underwear?
Okay. So when I first started playing in Artemisia, there were some absolutely fabulous, fantastic courtesan personas who put on, once a year, a social where they got everyone together and went lawn bowling in their underwear. And they were out there having brunch with mimosas and playing rolling balls on a gorgeous green lawn. And that has been one of the most fabulous ideas in my, it's what I think of when I think courtesans. And so it's what I am trying to emulate, is that idea of conversation and fun and ease. And it's relatively silly. It's incredibly silly, but it's also one of those things that it makes it easy for people to participate in because everybody's got whites, at least they should. Show up in those and just sort of lounge around and be funny. So that's why I call it lawn bowling in your underwear, because it did happen in my kingdom. I'm hoping it will happen again. And that is my view of why certain my view in general of games is an excuse to talk to and interact and get to know people. I'm not highly competitive. I can't win at gambling. I'm horrible at I have no sports ability whatsoever. So what I want to be around for is something that is accessible and I can visit. So that would be the why lawn bowling in your underwear. Does that explain it?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
I feel very
It's mostly just my philosophy and motivation. My motivation for playing any game is not win. It's to give people a reason to laugh and joke and hang out and find some place that they're comfortable and probably have a snack. Snacks are important. So let's do here. I learned a variant from the folks in the Shire Fountain, Dan Sable. I knew there were points. It was drunken bocce. Yeah, points aren't that important. Same principle on any road next to their camp until someone got drunk or bored. Critical rules, always asked to play through if the ball's in someone's camp and never run their base. Yep, pretty much. This is one of those games that's really, I mean, there are points, there are scores, but mostly it's just an excuse to hang out. There's some fabulous like bocce on YouTube, and some of them are like put on by a Italian restaurant, where what they do is they have bocce courts in front of the restaurant. So what they do is anybody that's waiting for a table or waiting for the people in their party, they can go play bocce. And that's the point. It's just a way to while away your time. It's sort of like our Victorian idea of croquet. I don't think most of us care about how croquet is scored. I mean, it certainly is, and it is a game, and you can play it that way. But most of us in our head, I think, have this idea of pretty clothes and gorgeous Edwardian hats and tea parties, picnics, and I think bocce is sort of the same way for me. It's about just giving people a reason to hang out. I do I do like the drunken bocce, and bowling in the road would be fun. So. All right, thanks, folks. Like I said, this one's short because we're not going to do any demonstration due to heat and Wi-Fi issues. So hopefully I will get eventually, when things calm down, some video taken, and maybe even convince a friend to come over and be on the other half of my lawn so I'm not breathing on them, and let them do some ball rolling as well. All righty. Any questions or comments or anything else?
I just appreciate you teaching it in like a laid back atmosphere. That's how I always teach dancing. And I've always shied away from learning gaming in the SCA because I'm like, I'm here for social time, you know, like.
Well, and I think that's what gaming is for. I mean, I play dice. I play a lot of dice games. I teach a lot of dice games. I corrupt many a youth by giving them dice. And I think that's what a lot of it is for. It's just something to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not in any way competitive. I'd rather tell the story. I'd rather walk away in the middle of a hand of something and hand someone else my cards so that they
Yeah.
can play. And so that is my view. And I know it is not everyone else's view, but I think it is a fabulous view for a courtesan.
Yes.
What we are trying to do is facilitate the fun, facilitate the discussion, facilitate comfort and play and learning to lounge. So,
yes. Yes. Well said.
So thank you. And I appreciate you hosting my stuff, Evan. Just super sweet of you to do it. And I have now taught 7 classes today, and I am so very done. But if anyone wants to continue hang out, please feel free to do so. I'm going to go find snacks.
You go snack and rest.
Love you all.
Yes, love you.
Thanks for being here. Get your own set of bocce balls and have some fun. Convince others to do it as well, because there's nothing like enabling your friends.
Thank you for the
Huzzah.
wonderful day of classes.
Yes.